that? Oh God, I'm gonna die. I gotta get this on camera. No. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Marino Show. I'm your host, David Marino, and I'm so very excited to have my guest today, Mandy Ingber, actress, author, renowned yoga and wellness instructor. But many of you probably remember her as Polly, the quirky best friend in the cult classic Teen Witch from 1989. And of course, we all remember the Top That rap scene, which is iconic. You see many people remaking it on social media now. And since her Hollywood days, Mandy has transformed her career and her life, becoming one of the most respected voices in yoga and mindfulness. She's the author of Yogalosophy, hard word to say, and has guided everyone from everyday students to A-list clients towards strength, self-acceptance, and inner peace. So Mandy, I'm so happy that you've joined me today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, David. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, I have to start with, of course, Teen Witch, right? Those of us, especially in the Generation X generation, grew up watching that film. For you, how did you end up getting into that film? Like, what was the process, and what was kind of your acting life like leading up to getting the Teen Witch role?
I started acting when I was 14 in 1982, and my first job was a Broadway show. It was a Neil Simon play called Brighton Beach Memoirs, and I was in the original company of that. So when I came back from New York to Los Angeles, I continued to audition and to build my career basically. And Teen Witch was basically just another audition, for a movie. And I just so happened to have been auditioning for Say Anything at the same time, which was a Cameron Crowe film. I'm sure a lot of viewers know Say Anything. And I had lost out on the Lily Taylor role. And she was the one that was the like over the brooding, like musician who was in love with Joe. And I'd lost that, and so Teen Witch was sort of like my consolation prize, and the rest is history. Top that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Speaking of Teen Witch, what was it like, making the film? What are some of your memories when you think back to working with the cast like Robin Lively and even, Zelda Rubinstein and Dick Sargent from Bewitched? And I know Zelda from Poltergeist, but I don't know if you had any scenes with them. I can't remember, but just in general, working on the film.
Well, funnily enough, all those people that you mentioned, I didn't have any scenes with them, so I don't remember. I have no memories of them particularly, or even uh, Joshua John Miller. Is that Josh Miller? We didn't meet each other until like 10 years ago when we did a Blu-ray edition of Teen Witch where we were doing a commentary in the background. So I had never actually met him. So there are a lot of them that I didn't meet, those particularly, but the cast, all the girls, Dan, we all got along great. I mean, we were like a little class. We had a lot of fun. I remember giving Dan massages, and we would all like hang out together and probably ask each other really personal questions. It was like a big slumber party. And because it was a low budget film, nobody really had a great dressing room, so we all just hung out together. So there wasn't a lot of separation.
And I had a huge crush on Dan. Even
Yes.
today, I have a crush on Dan. So
Many people. I think Dan has a crush on Dan. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, Dan is a good-looking guy. he looked like Tom Cruise back then. He was sort of like the Tom Cruise type, and he definitely he had a lot of admirers. And little did we all know when we were on the set that he and Lisa, who played Randa, were falling in love with each other. I remember Robin had a huge crush on Dan, but she was a lot younger. Robin was younger than the rest of us. Most of us were in our well, I think I was 20 when we shot that, and then 21 when we did the reshoots. So I think most of us were like in our early 20s.
Yeah, I think I remember her saying in an interview that she was 16 and he was like 22 or something. And so, yeah, and he married, right? And they're still married.
Yes, they're still married. In fact, I just saw them recently, and in fact, it was his birthday on the second. We just texted. I text with him all the time, and I actually, yeah, I've seen them frequently. We've all seen each other recently, actually. Robin and Dan and Noah and I did one of those signings together recently, which was really fun. We spent a couple of days together.
Oh, I love that you all have stayed in touch and, you know.
Yeah, Robin actually. So I had a 40th birthday party, 17 years ago, 18 years ago almost, and so I had a big 40th, and it was a breakfast for dinner party. It was like a pajamas if you want to party. Anyway, I'm sitting there, holding court, and all of a sudden I hear in my ear, "Nobody's gonna come to your birthday party, Louise." And I turned around and it's Robin. And it was so like, she's just great. I mean, I've seen her a lot actually over the years, or, a handful of times, maybe 10 times. Yeah, I really love Robin and I love Dan and Noah. Yeah. And Lisa. Love Lisa too.
Well, I have to get to the obvious. Top That is so iconic. And today, so many people have remade it, from celebrities to just you see it on TikTok, on social media. What was it
Everybody
like?
wants to top that. Everyone wants to top that.
What was it like shooting that scene?
Well, so the in the script, in the original script, they never mentioned that there was going to be a rap scene. So I was the kind of actor, I was never into, I never acted like I could do things that I couldn't. Like I never was like, special skills, horseback riding, roller skating. I was always the bare minimum because I didn't want to get into a situation where I couldn't do something. So after we are wrapped the movie, I get a call that we're doing reshoots, and they send over these reshoots, and one of the scenes is the rap scene. So all of a sudden I'm supposed to rap. That was never anything that I signed up to do. So of course I was mortified, thinking how am I gonna pull this off? Not only that, but they changed something in the plot. I didn't know that my character Polly had a crush on Rhett this whole time. I guess they decided that this was going to be something that, elevated the movie somehow. So I was just thinking, well, I mean, I wasn't playing that in the rest of the movie. So how is this going to read? So anyway, there were a million reasons why I was like, my feet were on the brake, but I didn't have a choice. And they put us into rehearsals. We did a dance rehearsal or a couple of dance rehearsals for that. We went and we recorded the rap, and then, the day comes where we actually have to do it. And it was outside somewhere, I think in Glendale. And I remember the street was totally blocked off. And anyway, I was like, yeah, I had to gear up to do that. And Noah tells a story where he says that he told me that I was going to have to just throw down and be 100% committed. I'm not sure if that was him, but regardless, as an actor, what you have to do is, no matter what your point of view is, you've got to just commit. And so I just committed. I threw down, and the results speak for themselves.
Do you still does it still haunt you in like your dreams? Like, do you still know the words for Top That?
No, but I'll tell you, well, it does. It keeps coming back. It has nothing to do with my own head. It comes back to me through, through the internet, through, even, I did something with Glamour magazine for my, then yoga career. people look at me in a certain way and they're like, I just have to ask you, can you, it's like they have a look in their eye and I'm like, teen witch, So basically it can be like the most elevated, it can be the most elevated thing, and then somebody's a teen witch fan. So it haunts me in that it's the gift that keeps on giving, and I really appreciate it now for sure. I definitely used to be like for instance, I was so Brighton Beach Memoirs, the my first job. Matthew Broderick, who was Ferris Bueller. Matthew Broderick was a good friend of mine, and I remember one time we were at the Santa Monica Pier, and I was with Matthew and Sarah Jessica, and they were like, they were like 80s movie stars, and then these like girls were looking over at us, and they were like 10-year-old girls, and then they came over, and they wanted me, because I was like, Polly, and I wanted to disappear when that happened because I really didn't want my friends that were doing these huge movies to, I was embarrassed, but then that's totally changed for me. It's completely changed. Um, yeah,
And also Teen Witch, when it came out, it wasn't like a hit or anything. It kind of came and went, but it
exactly.
was it was cable, because I remember seeing it on cable over and over. So do you remember when that started to catch on? Like after you've done the film, it's done. You're sort of like, okay, it came and went. People aren't going to see it. And then cable happened. What how did you initially start figuring out that it was kind of gaining traction now in a different way?
It was stuff like that. It was stuff like what I had just described. Like I would be out somewhere and then these like girls would be looking at me and they coming up to me. I actually had gotten rid of my television. Like at that time, you know, it was everything was just on television. I got rid of my television and I kind of missed when Disney Channel started. I think that's when it started. And so people would come up to me. That's how I found out because there would be like a fan base. And I when we shot the movie, it was once we opened, I went to see the movie in the movie theater in Hollywood, and there were literally five people in the movie theater: me, two friends, and two strangers, maybe one homeless person. And so I just thought, okay, whatever. This is just going straight to video, which at that time was into obscurity. There were no such things as 24-hour cable channels, but then that happened, and so that's when that started happening. And then the internet happened, and YouTube happened, and then it just keeps having waves of new fans basically. So it's all based on people coming up to me. I mean, I really had no idea. And then I don't know if I shared this already, but there's a whole world of um, Teen Witch fans that are like for instance, this drag queen Peaches Christ does this musical review of Teen Witch. So all these drag queens play all of our different roles, and then they have numbers that they do, which are like the musical numbers in the play, but a little bit of a little more campy. And so I went to Sketchfest. Robin and I did a Q&A. They did a screening of the movie, and they did the drag show. And you go there, and it was like a packed audience, 800 people, and there are all these people that just love the movie so much. Many of them are gay men, and so it's gay men and teenage girls basically who love this movie. And I so anyway, it just seeing that, I mean, seeing the love for the film really, it just opens my eyes. It opened my eyes, and it's great.
It does have a huge gay following.
It does.
I being one of those gay men that loves the film and loves you. Um, I think it just brings a lot of joy to people. I really do. I think it's one of those films that it yes, it's campy, but at the same time, it's such a joyful, it's a different kind of film. There are some things that are a little different about it. And we had spoken about this, maybe before the interview, just that I think it resonates so much with the gay audience, because specifically gay men, because there was a lot of the subject of being an outsider and not feeling good enough. and needing to almost have this power to make you better. But in the end, the lesson is really you don't need the bells and whistles if you're just yourself. So I think that just very message is such an important message, and still an important message today, but especially at that time when we were not as a society as open to people coming out of the closet, to talking about any of the issues surrounding LGBTQ plus, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it was like in some ways like a comfort. That's
Yeah,
my thought.
I think you're right, and it was funny because seeing it in that crowd, in San Francisco at Sketchfest with Peaches Christ, seeing the audience love it so much. I thought it was going to be like Rocky Horror Picture Show where people like just talk back to the screen and all that, but it wasn't that. It was this other, which that's great too. It was this other, like they were really enjoying the movie and they love Polly, and and I get that because um, the idea, Polly, the idea that she has that kind of confidence, in the rap, even though she's so uncool, I think it's just stepping up with your confidence, that people love so much about that, and yeah. So I do think that message is important as well, and yeah, people love it. So I love it too, for that reason.
Well, I'm so happy that, it's still something that is gaining fans, younger and younger fans, and that you still do, signings, and that you all have embraced the film so much, because I think that's a such a great thing, because then you get to interact with the fans, older and younger. And I love that y'all have embraced it so much. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think it's a different time where, we really can. And yeah, having for me at that time, it was sort of like the least prestigious thing, like I had done a lot of things, I was on Cheers, I had been nominated for, for an award when I was, 16, all these different things. And I didn't appreciate Teen Witch for what it was, but now with some distance, the camp of it, I really love that that's a part of, like, I love that I've been a part of something like that. And also it's kind of like soap opera fans. I actually used to be a soap opera fan when I was a kid. I was
Me
really
too.
into I was into General Hospital.
I liked
um
All My Children.
I watched All My Children. I was raised on All My Children. So I was in love with, Tony Geary. And so when you see like it's that kind of a fan base, it's dedicated fans. It's a different kind of fan, than just loving a movie star or whatever. It's like a world. So yeah, when I went to when it's meeting people who fly from Alaska to meet you. I mean, it's a privilege to be able to be a part of somebody's life in that way, to be able to give to them just your presence, like just the fact that you exist is enough, for someone. And I think that that's what's so, I guess that's the humbling part about it, to have somebody's love, for really just being yourself, you know.
I'm grateful that y'all made the film. I love it. And I also remember you from the Tortellis. That
Oh
it
yeah.
wasn't on very long, but yeah.
Yeah, so the Tortellis was a spin-off of Cheers. So basically, I did my first episode of Cheers when I was 17 years old, um, and uh, and then they did a spin-off, and then the spin-off went for 13 episodes. The way that they used, that was like a half a season or something. And then when that failed, we went back to Cheers. So Cheers was like a big part of my, it was sort of like that was like my college. And I think I was doing Cheers at the same time as I was doing Teen Witch. It was one of my it's like one of my classes in college. That's what it felt like.
And Cheers was also like it's an iconic show that everybody remembers. I mean, I remember the Shelley Long to Christy Alley thing and how much of a big deal that was back then, because people forget that at that time in the 80s, you didn't have all these competing channels. You kind of, I mean, cable started coming, but really it was NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox came in later. But those were like that at that time was a huge deal. Like television shows were huge.
Right, like Cheers had 50 million viewers a week, so like when I was on Cheers, like 50 million people saw me that night, so it was like that was a big deal, and that's a different, that's like for me, that's like being a part of pop culture. That's like an aspect of my career. I kind of feel like, wow, I got to have, I got to be a part of Broadway because that Neil Simon trilogy was a big deal. It was the first one of the trilogy, and so to have that, I'm in this, the Samuel French book as the original Laurie, and to rehearse with Neil Simon, and just all of that was amazing. Then Cheers is sort of like this marker for me of like my pop culture, involvement, and such an iconic show. Those are the, Neil Simon, and the Charles brothers and James Burrows, and those were like my icons, and then I got to work with them. And then Teen Witch is this other like campy thing. And so yeah, it's just fun to have all of those elements, going.
Now, after acting, you obviously at some point made a complete shift into the world of yoga, wellness. You do other things as well. What inspired that transformation, and how did that come about?
So I basically like had a personal thing happen to me in my early 20s, and it sort of knocked me out of wanting to work a room, and I had this transition where I was in acting class, and I didn't really know that I was like letting go of being an actor, because I really love the craft. I really really love acting, because it's a way of self discovery. And that's just really important to me. It always has been. And I'm a physical person, so being an actor, it's literally like putting yourself into action, right? So during that transitional time, I just I wasn't into working a room. And I then was like looking at what are all the other things that I can do. Like I kind of, even though I work a lot, I need something to be more responsible to on a regular basis. And I started, I was really into exercise. And so I actually had an eating disorder. And so I was into over exercising. But then I found spinning, actually, and it became a huge part of learning how to be in my own stillness. And I became this kind of guru-ish spinning teacher in 1996. And what I would do is I took kind of the Mandy character, and instead of having it be like what another person would cast me as, it was basically the my best self character. And I would take people through journeys through exercise. And so that's how my career as an exercise and fitness person started. And I realized that I had this other talent as well, which was basically like being a motivational speaker, like on a bike. And I was able to help people through difficulties, just as I had gone through difficulties. And so that's kind of how it started. And um, I already had, many celebrities in my life or whatever, but like celebrities started coming to my class. My friend at the time, Helen Hunt, was like a regular person in my class. There was like Alanis Morissette, then like, like Kira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon started coming to my class. It was just like this big deal. My class was like a big deal. So from there, I segued into becoming a yoga instructor as well. Yoga had been a part of my life ever since I was a child, because my father was really into yoga. And so we always practiced, and we were macrobiotic when I was a kid. And it was sort of like my dad's thing, but it was also a way that I connected with my dad, and was trying to understand my dad. And basically, at a certain point, I did a yoga teacher training, and that started to be a thing in my wheelhouse as well. And I started working with Jennifer Aniston, who is a friend of mine, and she kind of pushed me out into the world, and basically started talking about me. And then once Jennifer Aniston started talking about me, it was like this huge thing, and that's how it started.
And you've actually written like some best-selling books as well, right?
Yes. Yes, so I have a brand, Yogalosophy, and that brand, I basically self-produced a DVD called Yogalosophy, and it's actually that workout is a hybrid. It's a yoga hybrid, so it's a yoga pose paired with a toning exercise. It's a 35-minute workout, and I have that for sale actually on my website and on Instagram if anyone wants to check it out. And it's basically a really good intro to yoga because it has very simple yoga poses, but it's also challenging because it has uh, calisthenic exercises as well. So it's like a yoga workout. And then I wrote Yogalosophy 28 Days to the Ultimate Mind Body Makeover, which is basically a 28-day wellness program. And that was a New York Times bestseller. And I have another book called Yogalosophy for Inner Strength, which was the focus is on heartbreak. So it's all about heart poses, heart opening poses, um, uh, and heart healthy foods, and so that's the angle is different people's stories about heartbreak, and that's a great book too. So yeah, those are my products, and yeah, it was really fun to become this other version of myself, and help others with through my story and through just helping people through intensity, which to me, exercise and physical fitness is so much about framing sensation. Because a lot of people don't like to exercise because they don't. It's like they're not. It's hard to stay motivated. So finding new ways to motivate people is a huge part of what I do. But also to frame sensation, remembering things like the moment that you're starting to feel like you want to give up is actually the moment that you're making breakthroughs. That's a real thing in life, but it's also we can model that through our exercise routines. And so if you do something in exercise that's hard, that's challenging, where you break through to the next level, you can do it in real life. But just the same, you can take real life experiences, channel that into what you're doing, and that can motivate you through a workout. So there's just so many different ways to motivate people. That's one of the fun things that I like to do. And another thing that I do is I do astrology readings. So that's something that I'm really into doing now. And I also used astrology for my teaching. So people didn't necessarily know this, but I would often use uh, just what was happening in the stars as a framework for my classes. And people would think, "Oh my God, how do you know this is what's going on with me?" And I would just be like, "It's the astrology." But
I know I looked at your website and I mean, you have so many different things that you do. Like you said, yoga, wellness in general, and then the astrology part. For you, being able to work with various people and help them achieve their goals, whether it be through physical transformation or through the mind, how has that kind of helped center your life? And, what how has that transformed like your world as well?
yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think that okay, so if I had to put a thread through for all of this, including talking about Teen Witch, I think that encouraging other people into self-love, into loving themselves is really that is my true desire. It's my true aim. And I think that the way that I teach is by example. So I really have come through a lot of, for me, putting my experiences into action is a way that I motivate others. So for me, seeing that my story and things that are hard for me can help others, that's part of how it transforms my life. It's really the same as Polly. It's like to see that Polly, the character of Polly can help other people to feel empowered, which I think that's part of why people want to reenact that scene so badly. It's like the geekiest part of ourself. It's like this is my like most vulnerable geeky part of myself, and I'm just going to put it out there. And I think that people like to do that, and it's fun to be silly. And so I think that that's part of it. And I think that it's important to know that these shadow parts of ourselves, or places where we have felt unloved, when we put them out there, that they actually make an impact in a good way. So I think that's really how to know that my story, that my difficulties, that my own resistances, even like my bitchiness sometimes, there I have times when I'm like, oh, I'm such a bitch, But then if I just put it out there, it really lightens it up, and also it lets other people feel like they can be easier on themselves too. Um, I don't know if that makes sense,
It
but
does make sense, and that resonates with me because, I think one, being gay, that was hard to kind of come to terms with and be okay with because there's all these external forces telling you, no, that's bad. That was one. But not even just that. For me, as I've gotten older, you talked about that scene, Top That, and why people like to reenact it, and that they get to kind of be their silliest or geekiest self. Because I think as we become adults, unfortunately, we lose that kind of childlike,
yeah,
sometimes fun.
yeah,
But for me, what's happened, it's kind of funny because there was a period I went through where it's like, got to be this person, and I love horror movies. I love movie posters. Like you can see them all in the background. And there was a time when I tried to mute that a little because I'm like, oh, that's something like a teenager would do. It's a young person thing, putting posters all over their walls. But I'm like, wait a minute, that is me. That's who I am. If I want to put posters all over my walls and I want to have movies and all these random horror things around me because that's what I like,
yeah,
I don't need to. It's like embracing the part of you that you were afraid to show because people are going
yes,
to think I'm weird, or they're going to think you shouldn't be doing that at 50. And letting go of that is, I think, the best. And I'm still obviously always working on myself and a work in progress, but I think it's important to embrace all of those parts of you that you think other people are going to make fun of. Because what happens, even at work in my cubicle, I have all my hard stuff. It draws the people to you that love that, or they have parts of them that they're into. Like I learn things about people all the time at
right,
work because they're like, oh, I collect. It's not horror, but they start talking about their love for
right.
whatever. And so do you find that too, like through your teachings, that when you show people that you bring yourself to the table, you are your true self, that
Mhm.
then it starts bringing in
Yes.
more?
Yes. Well, that is you. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, that is exactly when I started teaching. I somebody said to me, who was like my mentor as a teacher. She said, "Speak out loud. What you tell yourself or what you think." And I was like, "I can't do that." And I started to, and I started to share my story. And when I started to share my story, I was like, "Look, I'm just going to trust that whoever is gravitating towards my class needs to hear this." And lo and behold, my classes became huge. I mean, they became huge. And so, yeah, it was surprising to me. And people would say, I feel like you're speaking to me. And so I don't know how that works. That when we put ourselves out there, when we put it out there, there's a resonance, there's a magnetic attraction that just happens. So, I mean, I definitely, I mean, I'm getting inspired by this conversation because I forget that sometimes, that that's part of it. Like just putting yourself out there, you begin to attract what is meant for you. And that definitely, and I think that's a great example. I think it can be a great example.
No, I was going to say, I also think, one of the things I've thought of a lot is that, I don't know if it's just American culture or whatever. I think that there are a lot of things that you're taught when you're young that you've got to check these certain boxes in your life in order to be happy. You have to be married. You have to have a house, have an apartment. You have to have this and that. And if your life doesn't align that way, it can be, you can feel disappointment because it's based on other people's, what they think, what you grew up thinking you had to be, right? And so I think what happens as you get older sometimes, and those things aren't really happening for you, these walls start going up, and it's almost like you're trying to protect yourself because you're not that. But then in doing that, you're closing yourself off so much
Mm,
to everybody else. And I did that for a long time. And at some point that catches up with you, and not in a good way. I mean, I've gone through my ups and downs in life and
mhm,
have gone through therapy, and still, I do it. I haven't done it like this year as much, but I try to stay more consistent with that and really listening, because there are a lot of things that, life is always to me about, there's always ups and downs, but it's really how you start adjusting to those things that you can control, those things that you can't. But I do think that there is something in really letting go and letting the walls come down and really being your authentic self. As easy as that sounds, it's not easy.
mhm. Yeah.
It's not always easy for people. So
Totally, totally. And then, you start like I found that then I get known as it's like for a while I was like, oh, this is great because I have this whole other life. And so that's why looking back at say like my acting life, that then became the easy thing because then I'm identified with this. But I think I just have in my life, I just keep having to redefine myself. That's just a part of what my life is. And so it's getting I think for me the older that I get the more that I realize that there is no arrival place. It's just an ongoing evolution. We're constantly changing and growing and having to update these things about ourselves. And even when you do get the whatever the dream is, I've had my dream many times. There's also a lot of dreams I didn't get, but like I you outgrow, not you outgrow your dreams, but I'm going to be 58 on 111, everybody. Um, but so yay 111. So but at 58, you go, oh, I already did that. Like you kind of look back and you go, a lot of things like whatever happened, whatever didn't happen. And then it's like, okay, but what I'm still here. There's still more. And so it's just a constant um, becoming present, into where you are. And I love what you said about leaning into just whatever excites you, whatever excites you is the thing. And also sometimes we're not excited, and sometimes you have to lean into that. So it's just, life it's just it's a big tapestry. It's fun and sometimes not fun.
well, I've had to navigate that because I turned 50 this year, and I didn't really think of age much leading up to this
So
until
mm,
50. And I'm like,
yeah,
what?
yeah,
Because I still feel like,
a kid.
like a kid,
Me
right?
too.
Like I don't subscribe to what is someone who's 50 supposed to be like. I've never done that with age. But I think too, like, I've had to continuously navigate it, because there's something with a certain age where it starts bringing back those feelings of, by now I should have done this, or I should have had this, or I should have the husband, or I should have the wife, or I should, whatever it is that for you that means. And I've had to like frame my
Yeah.
life in a way that this is where I'm at today, and this is a good place. And I lost one of my childhood best friends like in February of this year, and we were a
Mm,
week apart. He would have turned 50 a week after me. But that was one of those things too, that it reminds you, like when you start going down, at least for me, when I started going down the road of, I don't have this, or I thought, here's somebody that I grew up with that's no longer here, and they're not here. I'm still here, and I don't like that they're not here, but I need to be happy with where
mhm.
I'm at, because some people don't have that. They don't have the opportunity to live to 50. And that is something that I started reframing my thought with that, because it was like, oh my God, my friend passed away. And here I am, like, in my head, getting all caught up in these things that he wishes, he would have had. And so it's such a,
Yeah.
I
One
feel
of my
like
friends,
life is always like that.
yeah, one of my friends just said, "Oh, that there's nothing." It's so ironic that death can be so life affirming. It's like it's they go together somehow. Well, something. So just to circle back on the astrology, so it's like there are certain rhythms, planetary cycles that happen, and at around 50, 50, 51. the cycle that we come to is the original wound. So we all have this part of ourselves that is like, that is the wounded healer that can't actually, it can't actually be resolved by a full healing. But what it is it's an alignment of the heart, mind, body, and spirit, which is triggered by something that kind of re-wounds us, or touches on the wound. And so the best we can do with that is to actually find that alignment and help others with it, right? So at 50, 51, that's when the wounded healer kind of gets activated. And so it makes so much sense that at this age you're having that wound triggered, again, and that you're coming into this, place. And I think it's about identity. I think for your year, I'm not, oh no, actually, I'm not really sure what it is. I would have to look. But anyway, never mind. Yeah, I would have to look up the where Chiron was at that time. But
Yeah. But I love talking about these things because I think with my show, we were talking before we started recording, one of the reasons I like doing this isn't just to touch on what the people I'm interviewing have done in their past, life and their past career. It's talking about what they're doing now and how that energizes them and how important it is to show people in the world that you don't have to be one thing, that you're, like you said, we're always evolving, and it's okay to change and do something different with your life if you want to do something different, or this path has run its course and now it's time to go on to a different path. And I think that people are really afraid of change. And I think that it's important to remind people that sometimes that's what I always feel like, if you're at the point, it's like I told you when we were talking outside of this interview, I was in news for 16 years and I was tired of it.
Mhm.
And I finally got to the point where if you don't make a decision and there are all these signs in your life that are saying, get out, it's time to move on, that
Mhm.
you will either break down or something will happen that will force you to
Mhm.
that next step if you don't act. I feel like there are all these signs that if you
Yeah.
keep ignoring them, somewhere along the line, something's going to push you there because it's like you have to do it. That's just been my experience in my life.
Yeah. I like that. The way that I would frame that, like what I would have, how I would have framed it in a spinning class or something, is basically, you can't actually make a wrong move. The universe will redirect you right back to where you're supposed to be. You can't make a wrong move. So no matter what you do, you can't make a wrong move. Um, Funnily enough, I have in the last like couple of years, actually during COVID, I went back to auditioning as well. And so that I thought I was completely done with that part of my life, and it kind of like just re-emerged. So that's another part of it, which is, things can, and especially in these times, it's kind of like I can't get rid of any of it. Like I used to think that poly was going to go away, but then the internet happened, and it's kind of like you really can't get rid of any part of yourself.
Right.
So the integration of all of it, it's like we are all of it. I'm all of the things. I am the actress, I'm the teacher, I'm the one that quit, I'm the one that started up again. I'm all of it. And it's all good, it really is. So that's my take.
If you could act in something now, as you mentioned, you've started auditioning during COVID, is there a kind of role that you would want to play? Is there something that
Well,
you go ahead?
that's what I love about going back at this age. It's like so the last thing I did, I actually did one thing with Jennifer Aniston and Woody Harrelson that Jen directed, which was this little PSA. It's like a 3-minute thing, and it's the three of us in it, and it's really cute. It was a PSA about Burma. But anyway, but aside from that, and that was like when I was 40. But aside from that, I hadn't acted since I was 30, and but so I feel like I was at the other end of my life when I started, and now I'm over here and I'm like looking back, and there are all these new different roles, and so there are so many fun new parts that I've read for, actually. And so I'm more excited now about all the different roles than I even was when I stopped, when I was 30, because it's just there's an I used to get pigeonholed into like one or two things. Now there's all these really multidimensional characters. So there's tons of things. I mean, it's like I have my favorite I have my favorites and people that I'd like to work with and all of that, but I'm just having fun trying on the different roles for size. It's just fun to have a take on it. So
In the world of reboots, could you ever see like a Teen Witch?
I was hearing for a while that there was one and then it kind of went away. So I think that at some point I think it's happened a few times where something came up and then it went away. So I don't really know. I think a lot of that has to do with whoever has the rights, and I think that we're getting into like that kind of stuff, and I don't know anything about that. I think it would be really really fun. I don't know if people would want to see like all of us older, or if they'd want to see like like a new version with like a recast version or whatever. I mean, I don't have the rights, so I have nothing to do with it, but I'd I would love to go back and do Polly, see what kind of raps Polly has on today. Yeah.
I love that. So, Mandy, if people want to seek you out for, spiritual or yoga, wellness, astrology, how can they do that? I know you're based in LA, but you also do like virtual sessions with people, right? So can you talk
Yes.
about how people can get in contact with you if they're interested in taking advantage of the different services that you offer?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. Well, I have a website, which is mandyingber.com, MandyIngber, like you see right there, .com. And yeah, and I love especially to do readings if people are interested in astrology readings. That's really, I love doing a one-on-one astrology reading, helping people frame where they're at. It's a very affirming thing to look at your chart because we each have an individual blueprint for what for what our soul and spirit is here to do, and we're not all here to get married and have a kid and do, we're here to do a lot of different things. So that's one way. I'm also on Instagram. You can go to my link tree on Instagram, Mandy Ingber. I'm on all the social media, Facebook obviously, and but I guess Instagram. Oh, TikTok. I started a TikTok account for astrology, and I'm there. I just started it, so I have I have very few followers, so maybe you guys can follow me on TikTok. I'm Astrology Goat 111. So